They're dreamers. They want more out of life.
And in general, they're human in the fact that they're just looking for a community like everybody else. Like people look for a fitness community.
Right.
People look for an entrepreneurship community. People will look for a church community.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's difficult to fault people for
wanting answers and wanting
yes.
a community.
Yeah.
The problem is when that ideology becomes part of your identity.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. I am your host, Jarryn Bingham. And before we get started, my boy Quayshawn with Fourth Park would kill me if I did not tell you guys to like, subscribe, and share if you like book reviews, if you like good conversation, if you like my guest after the episode. But nevertheless, here on the Cover2Cover Podcast, we discuss books, fiction, nonfiction, all types of genres. And in today's episode, we are going to dive into Mark Manson's 2020. What would you kind of list this book as? Like a little psychology book? Everything Is Fcked by Mark Manson. I apologize, grandmother. I'm about to be using the F word a lot in this one, only because Mark made me. And then we're also going to dive a little bit too in the subtle art of not giving a fuck. But yes, with that, I am very fortunate and very blessed on this podcast episode to be blessed with an old friend, my dear friend, Miss Perla Gisselle.
Hi.
How are you doing, Mel?
Good.
Well, let's just jump right into it. Why Everything Is Fcked by Mark Manson. A book about hope.
Yes, there we go. You gotta put the subtitle on there.
I will, yes.
Look around. It feels like we're just living in an age of what feels like unprecedented tumultuousness, but it's pretty precedented if you look throughout history. But it just, because we're living in it, feels so new, so impossible, and so confusing. And so I feel like this book is more of a, you said psychology, which I would agree, but I think even deeper than that, it's more like a modern day philosophy book.
Okay.
It's a philosophical tome for people who grew up in the age of information.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's Aristotle or Socrates or Plato or anything, but he does have a bit more of a modern approach to his solutions to the world's issues.
Okay.
The entire premise of the crisis of hope, you can sort of see it wherever you look, whether it's in all-time high drug addictions or all-time high suicides or all-time high consumption. When I say consumption, it's not just of consumer goods, but entertainment and porn and everything else. And all of those things do contribute to the hope crisis and us feeling like we just do not have control over anything.
Well, before you continue, I wanted to define hope. Webster's Dictionary. Hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. So it's a very futuristic vibe. So you were saying that, we were saying earlier before the cameras cut on, Mark had he's very provocative with not just his title, but also how he titles his chapters, especially in the subtle art of not giving a fuck. But then he almost kind of gives you the truth in it afterwards when he says a book about hope. And so with all of the things that we see going on around the world, I kind of throw you some questions in reference to the book. So we're going to kind of jump into question 2, where we kind of flip through some of our favorite quotes from the book. And so I'll allow you the opportunity to go first, and we'll do a quote for a quote. And we can kind of elaborate on each quote.
The first one that I sort of sank my teeth into was the paradox of progress.
Okay.
And how, the better everything gets, the worse everything feels.
Yeah.
And if you just sort of marinate on that, and thank you for inviting me on this pod, because it gave me the opportunity to read this book for a second time.
Okay.
But if we really chew on that one, it can feel like an easy answer to everything that's going on, like the advance of technology, and we like social media, and these things were supposed to be good, but it feels like things are just devolving from there. And I think that if we were to sort of step back and, well, I guess we could get into this later when we talk about like the actual who should read this sort of deal. But if we take a step back and think about the how the progress that we're making is hindering, and it's going to sound a bit oxymoronic, but it's hindering the progress we could be making later, because we're just so stuck in things are good, but how can they get better? Mm-hmm. But in the wrong way. Yeah. We're searching more for distractions. We're searching more for diversions. We're searching for less pain, and that's more of the concept of the book. But if we were to say, okay, things are good materially, now how can we go back and make sure that we're as resilient as we need to be to make sure that these material things don't negatively impact us as they have been?
Yeah. That's funny because it's one of my favorite parts of the book, one of my favorite quotes. I'm sorry if I hit the mic. Kind of piggybacks off of yours, but Paradox of Progress was at the top of the book. One of my favorite quotes comes at the kind of the back half of it, but it still kind of lines up. He says, developmental psychology has long argued something similar, that protecting people from problems or adversity doesn't make them happier or more secure. It makes them more easily insecure. A young person who has been sheltered from dealing with any challenges or injustices, growing up will come to find the slightest inconvenience of an adult life intolerable, and will have the childish public meltdown to prove it. That's I really like that one. And also, he kind of played back a little bit higher in there when he said trauma used to mean specifically an experience so severe that the victim could not continue to function. Today, an unpleasant social encounter or a few offensive words are considered trauma and necessitates safe spaces. Why do you feel like as a society today, we are so much more, I guess, sensitive? Or do you feel that we are more sensitive?
I do feel like we're more sensitive, and that's a double-edged sword. I think that sensitivity in the right context is great. Being sensitive to the plight of others, obviously, but you can have that sensitivity without being fragile yourself. Yeah. I think that comes from when he's further down in the book. Well, it's almost in that same section where he talks about like instead of the pursuit of happiness, we need to like choose our pain. Yeah, yeah. And I think that really goes hand in hand with the sensitivity. We can't take pain. Yeah. Everything that we do, whether it's like in our life goals, you ask somebody, oh, if money were no object, what would you do? And the first thing they'll probably say is something luxurious. Yeah. We don't really choose pain. Unless you're somebody who works out, and then the old adage of like no pain, no gain, that is very true, and not just in building your body, in building your mind too. Yeah. We put these like Shaolin monks who are fortifying their minds and like fortifying their bodies, sitting under heavy waterfalls and doing all these things. We're like, wow, they're so amazing, but we can't sit still with our own thoughts for 10 minutes.
He used a monk as an example in the book. Thich Quang Duc, I think that's his name, right? Yeah. The Vietnamese monk who...
self-immolated.
Yeah. And he was protesting the treatment of the monks during those times. It was like in the top of the 1960s. That picture, it was funny because when he mentioned it, I was like, me jump in and kind of just do a little bit more research on it. But I watched the video. It was a video footage of it, and I don't like fire. You know, it's like shit is just hot. But to like watch the video of like a man who has so much mental fortitude that even the physical pain that he's currently reaping of the highest extremes doesn't even crack him. He mentioned, Mark mentioned, it was some quote in the book. I'd have to go back and find it. I'm sure I can find it somewhere. I can remember. I can't find it here, but it's something that deals with mental toughness. But that was just when you had mentioned Monk. That had sparked.
It's visceral. It's a visceral experience. And then how he said that, you know, people sort of mobilized around that, and the world was able to sort of come together around this one man's sacrifice, which tale as old as time. But you know, people were able to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we have the same level of depth, really. I think
as a society?
Yeah, I think that we're pretty shallow now. We have algorithmed curiosity and critical thought out of ourselves. And
okay, yeah,
you
I
know,
like that. I like that saying.
And so, for example, I think his name was Aaron. I cannot remember his last name, but the U.S. I think it was an airman who self-immolated outside of the embassy.
Yeah.
People were like, "Oh my God, that happened!" Scroll, you know, like there was no additional pain for his sacrifice or his attempt to make a statement.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just.
Could it be because of the just surplus of news that we're just getting now? Where like everything is just so overbearing and just so much.
It's compassion fatigue, absolutely.
You in these terms.
You know.
I'll be compassion fatigue. What was the other one you said? I don't know. I need to, when I go back and edit these episodes, I'm going to just jot these down. I'll give you a credit for them when I say them in terms. But
yes, it's compassion fatigue. It's us being so inundated with news from everywhere. We, as humans, are not equipped to handle all of the information that we currently have.
Yeah.
I say this as a software engineer. The internet is a road to hell paved with good intentions. You know, we weren't supposed to have access to all of the knowledge that exists in the world at one time.
I believe that I would hope that the majority of people would agree with that.
And like it messes with us. We are very, very old machines trying to run very advanced software.
Yeah.
And so we're just not equipped to deal with it. And so, you know, whether we're putting up walls or creating cognitive dissonance to make things make sense when clearly they do not, we have to do what we have to do to continue to survive in our own bodies, not just in the world.
So with that being the case, what aspects of what were certain uplifting things that you found in the book that could help one press on? Because I mean, there is war going on, especially third war in third world countries. War, different families, different. Houston just had these crazy tornadoes, but there's just so much devastation. We have an election coming up at the end of this year, and I kind of didn't want to jump into it, but then I was like, well, who am I? I forgot who the person I had on the podcast coming on. I thought, what better person to have a conversation?
Oh gosh, stop.
Than this upcoming election. Do you think everything is fucked with this upcoming election?
Yes.
Why do you feel that way? We don't have to necessarily get into the particulars of the candidates themselves, but is there not an aspect of hope, something to look forward to in the future?
I think there's a bit of hopelessness.
Okay.
When it comes to this. The reason why I think everything is fucked, aside from the fact that we have to choose between dinosaur A and dinosaur B, is the level of media illiteracy that we're just sort of dealing with in general, I think contributes to why it feels so fucked, because people are very quick to believe in anything that reinforces their own biases. We, as humans, we are conditioned to do that. Now, to sort of tie that back into this, when you think about the section, and this is one of the questions that you asked was like, which favorite chapter of the book? I wouldn't say I have a favorite chapter, but I have a favorite section, which is the section about religions.
Yes. That was my favorite one too. So now that we're on it, let's go ahead and just
that section.
Slide right into it.
Because, sure, we do have spiritual religions and they have dominated the world since recorded history.
Yes.
But I think the more harmful and more relevant religion at this moment is the religion of ideology. Yeah. Whether that's liberalism, conservatism, capitalism, socialism, all of them.
So quickly let's bring our audience back into the swing.
Sure.
Mark, in the book, he gives us 3 religions. He gives us spiritual religions, which is, of course, self-explanatory. Ideological religions, similar thing, neoliberalism, capitalism, fascism, all those things. And then he has interpersonal religions. Interpersonal religions draw hope from other people in our lives. Examples are romantic love, children, sports heroes, political leaders, and celebrities. So yes, this was by far one of my favorite segment in the book. Mm-hmm. One, because he starts off the chapter as how to start your own religion. And then he kind of lists these 6 steps. So, and we'll go over these 6 steps throughout the episode. But if you want to start your own religion, if you want to have people follow you and do whatever you want them to do, get Mark's book and learn how to build your own religion. Very beneficial. You can scale it. It's crazy. So let's go back to why this is your favorite segment, and let's go from there.
Yeah. I think because people have glommed onto what?
As you were saying, I had this idea. The majority of people are naturally followers.
Yes.
Right? And that's not a
bad
diss. Thing.
Yeah.
And so isn't it, I guess we kind of figure this out later on, but isn't there more responsibility on the people who are stepping in roles of leadership?
100%.
Because often when people are duped, we often blame them for
being duped. Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, okay, yeah, sure. But look, if the nigga doing the duping was a very good duper.
I do not blame those 900 plus people who died at Jonestown. I blame Jim Jones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he had charisma, whatever that means. And he had the power to take his ability to persuade people and to inspire people and chose to use it for harm.
Yeah.
And let's say in a parallel universe, he had chosen to do something completely the opposite with that.
Yeah.
How uplifted those people who, people who get into cults, they're not stupid. They're idealistic. Yeah. They're dreamers. They want more out of life.
And in general, they're human in the fact that they're just looking for a community like everybody else. Like, people look for a fitness community.
Right.
People look for an entrepreneurship community. People will look for a church community. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's difficult to fault people for
wanting answers and wanting a community.
Yeah.
The problem is when that ideology becomes part of your identity.
Yeah.
You can say, you can support somebody without dying on the hill that they're standing on, but I think the problem is that you need to have a strong enough personal identity to be able to combat the magnetism of the person that you're following.
I agree.
So when you don't have that, you're able to easily be duped. You're able to believe that an election was stolen.
Listen now. I'm sure that I'm gonna have a few white people in my audience, and I hope a few of them are very right leaning.
And again, I'm not, and we'll get into this at the end. I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody or any ideology. I think that there's toxicity in just about every corner of society, but it's our own personal responsibility. And this sort of comes back to the hopeful part. It's our personal responsibility to be discerning and to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Yeah. You do not have to agree with everything somebody says.
So let's start and let's dive into how we can start our own religion. First off, before we start our own religion, what are we going to call it? Go ahead. This is your opportunity to start your religion. Talk all that shit about Christianity.
I've never in my life wanted to start a religion.
Let's start one now. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be a spiritual. It's going to be an ideological religion?
A philosophical religion.
Philosophical religion. What are we going to call this religion? I'm going to start it right now.
Let's call it the Truth Alliance.
Okay. The Truth Alliance. So, if we are following the steps of Mark in his book, step 1 is we have to sell hope to the hopeless. So here at the Truth Alliance, one of the things that I underlined in that segment, he says, remember that in order to feel hope, we need to feel there's a better future out there, values. We need to feel as though we are capable of getting to the better future, self-control, and we need to find other people who share our values and support our efforts, community. In fact, this is what I really want to do now, just because I have you in this position.
Oh, God.
I want to look at this entire segment of how to start your own religion and tie that into Donald J. Trump.
Fine.
Okay? So the Truth Alliance, we're going to come back to that. We're going to start that another year when society is truly about to crumble. But for now, we're now about to jump on Donald J. Trump, and we're just going to talk, because I remember when he won 2016 election.
We were together.
We were sitting back smoking in a Walmart parking lot. And I was like, there's no way that this guy's going to win. We're watching the results. And then sure enough, it happened. And everybody was so, puzzled, things like that. But again, if you look back, all of its issues that the election was, there still was a good amount of people who were like, nah, we're rocking with Trump. And caused a lot of divide throughout the country, all the way up to this point now. And so, but when I look at it and I read what Mark is saying, when he says, "Feel better about your future," Mr. Donald J. Trump comes out there and tells him, "This is how I can make you feel better about your future. We need to feel as though we are capable of getting to that. We need to feel as though we are capable of getting to that better future." It kind of ties in with the community aspect of it as well. I don't even necessarily know where I'm going with this rambling. But do you feel as if, well, we already kind of answered that question when you said it's really kind of on the person's own type of self-discovery. But at the same time, if a society is what it is, kind of like what he was going back saying, embrace the pain, why can't we just rock with something like a Donald J. Trump? And let's just say 2024.
Because there's a difference between experiencing pain for the sake of growth and fucking killing yourself.
Fair points.
I think 2016 was pain for the sake of growth.
Yeah.
I don't think that 2024 would be the same. I just think that we either didn't learn our lesson or don't care about the lessons we learned and are so attached to the religion of ideology that we're willing to cut off our nose to spite our face.
Can America ever escape that ideology religion?
At the current trajectory, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you factor in celebrity worship with that. Because it wasn't just the religion of ideology. It was also the religion of interpersonal religion and spiritual religion when you consider the fact that this man, who is quite obviously not a devout Christian, is co-opting Christianity in order to get that base. Yeah. So it's a shitty trifecta of somebody hijacking the most base impulses of humanity to get people to do whatever the fuck he wants them to do.
Donald Trump, man, it's crazy. It's so within just reading books and you read history, you're like, wow, man, people lived through those times. It was just, and I don't say this.
Now is those times, man.
Yeah. I don't say this like haphazardly, but it was fascinating to live through his presidency just because it was so wild. And just because I knew that, you know, in probably 50 years, kids going to be reading this in a history book and like, there's no way that he was doing these things.
Hopefully they'll read it in history books.
Where's the hope at?
Huh?
Oh, you did say hopefully.
Yeah.
I am hopeful that America can, I can't even allow this. Let's go to step 2.
Okay.
Let's go to step 2. We've already sold hope to the hopelessness. Step 2 is choose your faith. Mm-hmm. And one of the things in that I underlined, Mark says, evidence and science are based on past experience. Hope is based on future experience. And you must always rely on some degree of faith that something will occur again in the future. So, you know, you said back and said, hopefully that the history books will be going on. What do you think? What gives you that hope? I guess I should ask that question first. What gives you that hope that if somebody's out there listening, they really want to jump on the Truth Alliance, like what hope are we giving them?
I can't remember who said it, and I'm probably going to butcher the quote as I paraphrase it, but it was something about like, in order for evil to prevail, good men must do nothing. I can't remember who said it, and I probably butchered it, but so long as there is good men around, or there are good men around. What? No, well, I'm saying men because that's the quote, but I mean humanity, humans. So long as people who are doing the right thing for the right thing's sake exist, then, you know, the truth will always come to light. You won't be able to suppress everything that makes any nation ugly, you know?
But our political field is so contaminated, wouldn't you say?
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Do you think that we have, because even when it comes to politics, I'm definitely more so, I care a little bit more about my state and local politics. I think once you get up to the federal parts, it really becomes a dog and pony show. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I kind of wanted to kind of glancing at another quote within the same step, where he says the problem with evidence and ideologies is that humans have a tendency to take a little bit of evidence and run with it, generalizing a couple of simple ideas to entire populations on the planet. This is our human narcissism at work. Our need to invent our self-importance, our feeling brain running amok. I've read that once, kind of go back to one of the earlier questions in which I asked, do you think as a society we become softer? Have we become softer because times have become better, though? I mean, if it's more sensitive, I meant was the word. Because even with all of these advancements that we have technology-wise, even with the status of where we are in comparison to other countries, couldn't it be that we're just so self-absorbed and we have so much in terms of abundance that there's a lack of hope because we have so much?
Yeah, and that goes back to the paradox of progress.
Yeah.
You know, I think that we're so, how do I put this without being too inflammatory?
At this point,
I guess you're right.
At this point, who gives a fuck?
I guess you're right. Because we have so many of these comforts, it actually goes to, what was it called again? The, prevalence-induced concept change, or like the blue dot effect that he mentioned. Mm-hmm. It goes back to that. You know, we are so surrounded by softness and goodness and just luxury and comfort that we're now searching for threats.
Yeah.
And actually, if we want to tie,
we are bad algorithms, as I'm kind of like.
So that is factual. We are bad algorithms, but I just mean in the sense of how the final religion, that whole section, a bit off the rails. But again, if you don't view it as a psychology book or a self-help book and you view it as a philosophical book, then it kind of makes a bit more sense that he would provide, I want to say outlandish, but
say outlandish then.
Well, because it's not particularly outlandish. I can see some of those things happening in the next, 10, 15, however many years. Yeah. It's just to say that AI will be the new religion is a bit much.
In what way though? I mean, I think AI it's become very dominant in a very short period of time.
I would agree. And
when we say religion, which of the three categories between, well, it's not going to be spiritual. Well, I guess.
Well, yeah, no, it would be spiritual.
Yeah.
It would actually be a combination of spiritual and ideological, I would say.
Okay.
Because, all hail the algorithm. The algorithm isn't a spiritual entity. It's something, I wouldn't call it particularly tangible either, because it's, everything is in the cloud. But it would be a combination of the two. But because it is more tangible, you don't quite need faith to believe in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that putting that much faith in AI is a bit left. AI currently has the problem of what we call being authoritatively incorrect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it will, like, if you go on Chat GPT right now and say, like, how many rocks per day should I eat? It's going to give you an answer, and it will give you an answer confidently. But that doesn't mean you should go outside and eat some rocks, So it's...
But if people are looking for answers and AI is essentially one of the peaks of technology, then I hope that when people read this book, they get the understanding of it is on me to make the decision.
Yes.
Because, and AI aside, he talks about religion or, different types of religion, how to create your own religion. When he's saying these things, even to the Jim Jones victims, there still just has to be a level of discernment or a level of understanding where you kind of have to ask a few follow-up questions. I think us as a society now, because we want to, forgive me, I'm kind of on a tangent, but because we want the results so fast.
Oh gosh, yes.
We don't want to question when we get the results. So like, okay, A plus B, all right, C, cool. I'm not going to even ask any questions. I'm just going to move with C.
Well, because asking questions is pain.
Yeah.
And we are on the pursuit of happiness. We're not trying to go through the pain.
And that's what I appreciated about this book, because he tells you to embrace pain. He says, don't pray away pain, because pain is inevitable.
Yeah.
Like the longer you're going
it's the universal human constant.
The longer you continue to live, the more pain you're going to experience as loved ones die, as your body decays, as natural disasters continue to happen. And so it's not praying away pain, it's praying your strength to tolerate pain.
Correct.
And I think that I hope, again, when individuals crack open, not just this book, but any book in general, you understand that it, first off, is a day-to-day mentality. But secondly, and most importantly, if you have to embrace something, you might as well embrace it with confidence. Which is why I appreciated the book, especially more so towards the end, not necessarily the final religion, but where he kind of...
He gives a formula.
He gives a formula, but then he kind of goes between this fake freedom versus real freedom. And then I'm gonna hit you with one more quote, and then we can go into who you would give this book to or continue to recommend it to. But even in the section, this is the second to the last chapter of the Feelings Economy, where he starts to talk about real freedom. He says, ultimately, the most meaningful freedom in your life comes from your commitment, the things in your life for which you choose to sacrifice. Mm. Sacrifice is not easy. Sacrifice will never be easy. But if one is looking for true freedom, you're not going to find it in material things, as he says throughout the book. He says that you'll find it in the things that you have to sacrifice. And ultimately, that was the message that I was getting from it, was that amid all of this chaos going around you, be it in your community, be it in your country, or be it in the world, how do you best prepare yourself for it and your community for it? By ways of understanding the pain, by ways of understanding why certain groups are moving the way that they are and how they were formed. And I know we were kind of supposed to jump into the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Like you said, though, the subtle art of not giving a fuck, to me, definitely felt very more personal. Mm-hmm. It felt like a mirror as a book. I'm like, this nigga was just talking directly to me as I was flipping the pages. Whereas Everything Is Fcked, I saw things from more of a societal standpoint. Mm-hmm. My little rant. I forgot what the question was that I threw your way. How did you feel when you finished the book in general? You said it was kind of ended a little wild, but
it did end a little wild. But overall, I mean, it's one of my top, I would say 5 favorite books.
Second read though, you said so.
Yes, okay. Second read through. Like you found the subtle art as a mirror, I found that one as a bit of a mirror. Mm-hmm. Because if you're willing to take a step back and view yourself objectively and view yourself with a bit of criticism, not unhealthy criticism, just taking a step back and actually seeing yourself without the ego trying to create a facade, you should feel a little challenged. Yeah. You know, you should wonder if you are doing the right thing for the right thing's sake, or if you're doing it as a means to an end. Mm-hmm. So it was really self-reflective for me, in a way where sometimes I'll do something and I'm like, it's the right thing to do. Just do it because it's the right thing to do. You know, it's if you actually take the nuggets that are beneficial and actually apply it to your life, you start to view things a little bit differently, whether it's yourself or the people around you, or it helped me put the actions of people into perspective and the actions of demographics into perspective.
Has it made you more compassionate?
No. I wouldn't say that, but it has made me more understanding. Okay. I wouldn't say compassion and understanding are the same thing.
I could agree.
It's more like, that's really fucking stupid, but I get it. You know, like, it's still dumb, but I get it. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's compassion. I would say that's understanding. Okay. But yeah, it's just a good one. Yeah.
So with it being a good book, who would you recommend it to?
The entire world.
The entire world.
No, truly. It's so, again, if you're taking the parts of it that are truly the parts that hit hard, and you whether apply it to yourself or the people around you, you would be able to be like, maybe I'm not being as discerning as I can be. Yeah. Maybe I am attaching my identity onto these ideologies or onto this religion or onto these celebrities or politicians or whomever. And maybe you would take a step back and go, that's kind of dumb. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And if everybody had that mindset, I don't think that the people who run our society would have as much power as they do, because the only reason they have power is because we give them power. And the only reason we give them power is because we're afraid of autonomy.
Which is, I think, like one of the reasons one of the demographics I would give this book to would be Gen Zers.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're in that age now where, you know, every type of news, be it good or bad, is just going to be right there on your phone as soon as you wake up for you. I would want the society, or I would want the generations coming up to understand what they're headed into, and try to, you know, at least be equipped mentally with the different techniques and the different understandings that Mark lays out in the book on how to kind of best combat these, regardless of if you're doing that on a very community level or on a very large scales in terms of politics and government levels. But yeah, overall, it was a very fun read. I enjoy, so when I read, I like to, of course, go crazy with the highlights and underlining, and then I'll come back and I'll do my reviews and I'll see what everything I notated. Mark is a funny guy. Like, Mark is a funny guy. I actually watched both of his reviews as well, because he has a lot of content out in terms of not just writing his books. He's also a blogger.
Yeah, the first time I came across Mark was, and this article changed my life. It's called Fuck Yes or No. Loved it, because it really just, if you aren't fuck yes about something, don't do it.
I need you to share that with me. When was that article?
Gosh, like I read it when I was like fresh out of high school / slightly in college. Yeah. So like 2011, maybe 13, around that time. Are
these your favorite types of books, or like those philosophical books?
Yeah, I like books that make me think. So
I think a good amount of books allow one to think.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between books that provide you with the opportunity to come to your own conclusions and books that want you to think a certain way, you know?
Is everything fucked by the end of the year? When we start off next year, are we moving with hope, or are we moving with what the fuck?
We gonna find out in November, homie.
But I need Perla Gisselle to get our people of the Truth Alliance to feel that there's hope in 2025. So how do we do that? For the rest of 2024 and 2025, how do we give the people hope?
To give the people hope, we need to give the people their power back.
Okay. And we give the people their power back via knowledge and information?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, yeah, we're going to continue to do that, at least here on the Cover2Cover Podcast. Try. Yeah. Thank you for not canceling. Like, I feel like I won't be canceled with some of the things that you were saying.
I hope not. No, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to attack anybody.
I'm just playing though. This was fun. This was fun. I was a little nervous at first, so I can't even lie.
Why?
I don't know. Like, it's the more I do these, like the more comfortable I get, but at the same time I mean, these books they're powerful. Like, a lot, like the recommendations that I've been getting, like, are very good books, very powerful books, and I just want to kind of just do it justice. And I bring on quality guests, supported by quality people, and just kind of go from there. So again, I am very appreciative and very thankful for you to give me your Saturday morning.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
And then we're going to I'm gonna follow up with you on some of these books. We're going to kind of have some more offline conversations about them, especially because I plan on diving back into Everything Is Fcked probably later on this year, especially after November 2024 election. We will go from there. You have any other words for the people out there? Give them some hope before you go. Tell them that they're fucked.
I'm not telling people they're fucked. Let's see, some hope. You are more powerful than you think you are. And the only reason you don't feel that way is because you've been convinced that you're not.
Wise words from Perla Gisselle. Are you hitting up any tech conferences this year?
I'll be at Render. Again, my company paid for it.
Okay, cool.
So,
cool. Shout out Render. I know the people.
And then probably Connect Tech in September.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much, Ms. Perla Gisselle. We are about to sign off here on the Cover2Cover. I'm sure my boy Quay is going to have me do a bunch of these. What do we call them? Drops. And so we appreciate everybody again. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Cover2Cover.